Since when, do Democrats ever care about obstruction of justice? They didn't ever care. You know, we have Eric Holder. Well, if this is true, what Michael Cohen is saying and what BuzzFeed is reporting, BuzzFeed said they didn't see any of the evidence. Obviously, a leak from Mueller's office. But we know that, Eric Holder lied to Congress. They hated Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen, admitted to lying to Congress, lying on a loan application and on tax issues. And now he's the left's best friend. What do you make of that, Dan Bongino?
Well, I think, Sean, that this BuzzFeed leak, where, keep in mind, as you just accurately stated, the author of the piece himself has said, well, I really haven't seen any evidence. Obviously should be taken with, forget about a grain of salt, should be taken with a boulder of salt. But don't you find the timing of this leak, Sean, awfully coincidental? We just had a major bombshell on your Fox show by John Solomon this week. I mean, a nuclear explosive goes off where Solomon gets the transcripts of the Orr testimony, and we find out that Andrew Weissman, the lead pit bull for Mueller investigating Trump, knew about the dossier in August or the origins of the dossier before they went to the FISA court. In other words, the guy investigating Trump now knew this was a political hit the whole time. This comes out on your show with Solomon, and next thing you know, BuzzFeed, oh, looky here, folks, look what we got. Pulling out of a hat's a magic rabbit. We've got this story about BuzzFeed. This happens every time with Mueller. You see a major Moab launched on your show or somewhere else, and next thing you know, days later, is another unsourced anonymous leak that comes out painting Trump in an awful light. Very, very suspicious time.
You look at the whole thing. It's just they've fed this own narrative. Now, not only did we have that revelation, now we've got all the people around Comey. We discovered this week James Baker is under criminal investigation, Jonathan, on top of Andrew McCabe. Baker was Comey's general counsel. Andrew McCabe, the deputy FBI director at the time. You have this whole FISA abuse issue being investigated ever so slowly by the inspector general. But we learned a lot about FISA this week, didn't we? That everybody was told ahead of time that they shouldn't trust the document. Everyone was briefed on it, including people in Robert Mueller's office. We also know that Christopher Steele was trying to feed Bruce Orr information to send to Robert Mueller, but he was fired for lying and leaking. You couldn't even make up a novel this insane.
No, and I don't know of any other case, and Dan can back me up on this. I don't know of any other case that once the major part of evidence that spurned the case and got the case going was found out to have been created by the people who are bringing the allegations was
right.
Fake. No case would have gone forward at that point. It would have stopped immediately.
Well, and the thing is, but it does lead to Russia collusion. It leads to Russian influence on our elections, but Hillary paid for it.
Yeah, but that's what's so crazy. The government and the officials in the government, it doesn't matter if you're Congress or if you're the president, you're going to talk to foreign nationals. That's why they have State Department. That's why they have ambassadors. And that's what happens. And the thing is, what made, and I know everybody's talked about this, but what made this whole thing go forward was the fake dossier allowed them to get a FISA, which allowed them to do listening and set up sources. And so the whole thing, they could have just simply said to the Russian guy, hey, go meet with this guy, record it, and then make a big deal about it. I mean, some of these meetings aren't even in secret. They're just meeting with these people. And they can record it or have a source there and say, well, Donald Trump Jr. met with this guy. Well, it was just a meeting for a campaign. It was nothing, but they can make it into something. That's the way. It's exactly like what you see on the media every day, Sean. It's just, this is politics, but it's really one and the same. They're just doing it to give evidence for the court of public opinion, and Mueller's doing it and using the same evidence for a real court that's going to go nowhere.
Where does this all, do you think, come to an end? Because I actually think now with the revelation this week that Bruce Orr told everybody that this was a political document. I still believe that if we had equal justice under the law, Dan Bongino, Hillary would be in trouble. All of a sudden, they didn't care about the bleach bit, the subpoenaed emails deleted, and all the devices busted. Yeah. They didn't care about that case of obstruction. They're trying to twist one together here that doesn't exist. But more importantly, now that we know that there was a massive and widespread lying and fraud committed to FISA courts when they knew from day one, and that Mueller totally ignored the Russian connection with Hillary, I don't know how that has credibility, except that the media hates Trump and they ignore anything that would be exculpatory that they say they care about.
Sean, I think the three-letter agency people are in a world of trouble here. FBI, the CIA folks, Brennan, I believe there's been a massive paper trail. And just let me show this to you. Think about this one date. This is a pivotal date, July 27, 2017. A bunch of things happen on that date, right? Bob Mueller finds out in July 27, 2017 from IG Michael Horowitz that the Peter Strzok text that they have them. In other words, the whole scheme's been exposed. Bob Mueller knows it, and the IG tells Bob Mueller they have the text. You know what happens on that same day? That James Baker story being under criminal investigation was broken a long time ago by John Solomon in an article at Circa. You know what also happens on that day, Sean? Papadopoulos is picked up at the airport, and the day before, Manafort's house is hit. What does that tell you? That tells you Mueller knows this whole thing is a scheme. The texts give the whole scheme up from Peter Strzok, and he's trying to shut everybody up by locking up Papadopoulos, Manafort, and they got afraid about that Baker story under criminal investigation. All on the same day. You guys can look it up. July 27th, 2017. That's when the fuse was lit on this.
That's a great point. All right, Dan Bongino and Jonathan Gilliam. Final moments with Dan Bongino and Jonathan Gilliam. All right, so for the president and the shutdown, when does this come to a head? Is it when they run out of money? You know, at some point, there's a lot of millions of Americans on food stamps. What do we do then? What do the Democrats do then? Will they accept an invitation at that point? Jonathan?
You know, I think, I tell you, I don't know how this is going to end, but I will tell you this, Sean. I think that the president right now has the ultimate, I don't like the word compromise, but he has the ultimate compromise that could put him in a position to show that either he owns this whole thing or that they are not going to do anything. And that is, if he allowed a contract with America for all the people, they're saying it's like 20 million illegals now. We're never going to get all those people. And the contract would come with stipulations. You can never go on welfare. You can never have been in trouble. Other things, but if you sign this and you stay here for 5 or 10 years and you don't get in trouble, you pay taxes, then you can work towards American citizenship, but you can either not vote for 10 years or never vote at all.
Yeah, last word, Dan. Yeah, go ahead.
Sean, I'm hearing from a lot of my federal law enforcement buddies that the federal unions that represent these employees are infuriated, are furious right now for obvious reasons. Their members are missing paychecks. I'm hearing that after the third or potentially fourth check is missed, that they're going to push the Democrats and say, listen, it's time to get to the table and get this thing done. That's where I think it's going to change.
Unbelievable. All right. Thank you, Dan Bongino. Jonathan Gilliam.